So there's a lot of companies out there who talk about operational excellence and operational proficiencies. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is, you heard me talk in one of our daily grinds about, our education from MIT. And one of the things that we learned is, so many companies, when it comes to improving processes, really all they do is just add on top of the work that's already being done. So you're really not being more efficient, you're actually creating more work for the guys. What's interesting is what you really want to do is not increase the processes, it's remove the obstacles. And just to give you a quick example, if this is your normal rig move and your timeline, and this is perfection, shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Obviously, we've known that since we were kids. But what happens is, if we look over time at rig moves, we get these spikes and these valleys, and sometimes we win and sometimes we lose. And then sometimes, we get better. The question is, how do we improve that timeline? How do we improve that process? And what we need to figure out is, how do we remove the obstacles that the guys face on a day-to-day basis? What I want to do is turn it over to Dallas. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the research he's been doing and some really interesting kind of analogies that really hit home with what we face day-to-day in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, thanks. So what I've done is done some research, watched some TED Talks, looked into some of this, and there's a guy out there named Yves Moreau. I'm sure I butchered his name, but what he talks about is process improvement and how to simplify these processes. And one of the things he utilized was the U.S. women's sprinting team, and how if you looked at their standard running times where they were always consistent, 10-second, 11-second runs, those were the knowns. And with those known factors, you could guess that they were probably going to beat just about any competitor by about 6 meters at the end of the race. But when it came to the Olympics, they ended up coming in second. So the question was, why did they lose? And if you look at your knowns are these runners, right? You have these given sprinting times. If you know what they're going to run, they're all going to run 10 seconds each. You got 10 here, whatever the case may be. Where are we losing time? It's not the runners if they're consistent. It's these gaps in between. Right here, those peaks and valleys, that relay process, that's where the inefficiencies happen. So when you talk about rig moves and those spikes and valleys, you can imagine how defeating and how frustrating it can be for these operators to look at them and try to figure out where it is that they're losing all this time.
Yeah, that's a good point. You hear about a lot of times in NASCAR, they talk about how the fastest car doesn't always win the race. It's the guys that can get in and out of the pits the fastest. And that's the same thing as Dallas was talking about. I mean, when you're working on your operations and your rig moves and different things that you're doing, the knowns are things that you're going to do. You have your maintenance tasks. You know exactly what you're going to do. Where the changes come in is, what are the obstacles that the guys face every day? Where are we losing those hours that turn into days over the course of a year? If you can remove those obstacles, you can increase your revenue.